Welcome to the Word Up Podcast with Jerry and Allison. Today's topic, the mind shift, based on the powerful book, Transformation, Change Begins Within, by Dr. Lee A. Simpson. Discover how shifting your mindset unlocks clarity, breaks negative cycles, and fuels spiritual growth.
Have you heard about this book? Everyone's talking about it. Dr. Simpson's Transformation.
Transformation, change begins within, the journey to your best self.
Yeah, that's the one. It seems like everyone's saying it's life-changing.
It really has been making waves. So many people are saying it's helped them reconnect with their faith too, like really profoundly.
That's amazing. I guess that's why we're taking a deep dive into it today for our listeners.
Absolutely. I think what's really interesting is how Dr. Simpson ties faith, personal change, and the journey to your best self all together.
Yeah, it's not just one or the other, it's all of it.
It's this kind of tapestry, like all these threads weaving together to make something really beautiful.
A tapestry. I like that. So for everyone listening today, we're going to be talking about how you can apply these ideas to your own life. We're going to be drawing on Dr. Simpson's insights about faith and change and how those can lead to real, deep transformation.
And we're talking about the kind of transformation that comes from a deep connection with God, the kind of transformation that the Holy Spirit can guide us towards.
That's right. So today we really want to get to the heart of Dr. Simpson's message, to understand the burdens we all carry and how we can change for the better.
It's about recognizing those burdens, acknowledging them, and then moving forward.
So where do we even begin? I guess one of the first things Dr. Simpson talks about is this idea of an invitation to transformation. What does he mean by that?
Well, it's interesting because he doesn't present it as a command or anything. It's more like a gentle nudge, like something inside you is saying it's time for something new.
Like a whisper in your heart.
Exactly. And it's something we all experience at different points in our lives, those moments where you suddenly realize you need to make a change.
Like those aha moments.
Yeah, exactly. And what's really important here is that Dr. Simpson makes it clear this invitation is for everyone. It's not just for certain people or for those who have it all figured out. It's a call from God to all of us to let go of the things that are holding us back, the things that aren't serving us anymore.
The things that are keeping us from becoming who we're truly meant to be.
Right. So if you're listening right now, think about your own life. What areas feel like they're calling out for change? Where are you feeling stuck or unfulfilled?
These are really powerful questions to ask yourself.
Yeah.
But what happens when we do feel that call, that invitation? How do we even begin to respond?
Well, Dr. Simpson says it's totally normal to feel hesitant at first, or even scared. It's natural to resist change even if we know deep down that it's what we need.
Because stepping outside our comfort zone can be really daunting.
For sure. But here's the encouraging part. Every single journey, every huge life change starts with that first step, even a tiny one.
So what kind of first steps is Dr. Simpson talking about?
He says it's about identifying the things that are holding us back internally. Our fears, our self-doubt, all those things that tell us we're not good enough or that we can't do it.
So acknowledging those fears is actually a step in the right direction.
Absolutely. And then it's about embracing vulnerability, allowing ourselves to feel uncertain and to ask for help when we need it.
Because we don't have to do this alone.
Exactly. And the last thing he says is to take action, even if it's something small. Just one tiny step to get the ball rolling.
Because those small steps can add up to some really big changes over time.
That's right. And another big part of Dr. Simpson's book is about understanding the burdens we carry.
The burdens?
Yeah. He talks about how everyone carries burdens, things that weigh us down, both physically and emotionally.
I think we can all relate to that. We all have things that stress us out or cause us anxiety.
For sure. And what Dr. Simpson says is that it's not just bad luck or random events that cause these burdens. They actually have a real impact on our lives. They hold us back and prevent us from moving forward.
So if we can figure out what those burdens are, then we can start to address them.
Right. And just the act of identifying them can be a form of healing in itself, because then we're not just carrying around this vague sense of unease. We can start to pinpoint what's actually bothering us.
I like that. Pinpointing. It's like shining a light on those dark corners of our minds.
And then we can start to clean them out.
So what are some of the most common burdens that Dr. Simpson talks about?
Well, one of the biggest ones is guilt.
Guilt.
Yeah. You know that feeling you get when you've made a mistake or done something wrong? It can really weigh us down and make us feel like we're not worthy of happiness.
And sometimes we carry that guilt around for years.
Exactly. And then there's fear.
Fear of what?
Fear of all sorts of things, failure, rejection, the unknown. It can paralyze us and prevent us from even trying new things.
It's like we're frozen in place, unable to move forward.
Exactly. And then there's shame. Yeah, that feeling of being inadequate or not good enough, it can come from all sorts of places. Maybe from our childhood experiences or from society's expectations.
It can be so hard to shake that feeling of shame.
It really can. But the good news is that Dr. Simpson offers a way out. He points us towards the Beatitudes.
The Beatitudes.
Yeah. You know those blessings from the Sermon on the Mount? Dr. Simpson says they're not just nice words. They're actually a powerful message of hope and comfort for those who are struggling.
So they can help us deal with those burdens we were just talking about.
Absolutely. Because the Beatitudes remind us that we're not alone in our struggles. God is with us every step of the way.
And that we're worthy of love and belonging no matter what.
Exactly. And each Beatitude offers a specific promise and a path towards healing.
So let's talk about a few of them. Which ones stand out to you?
Well, the first one, blessed are the poor in spirit, is really powerful.
What does that even mean? Poor in spirit.
Well, Dr. Simpson explains that it's not about being financially poor. It's about recognizing our spiritual need for God, admitting that we don't have all the answers and that we need help.
So it's about humility.
Exactly. And when we humble ourselves before God, we open ourselves up to transformation.
Because we're willing to let go of our ego and our need to control everything.
Right. And then there's blessed are those who mourn. Now, this one might seem counterintuitive.
Because why would mourning be a blessing?
Well, Dr. Simpson says that when we allow ourselves to grieve, to truly feel our sadness, it can actually lead to a deeper understanding of ourselves and of the world around us.
So it's about allowing ourselves to feel our emotions fully, even the painful ones.
Yes. And through that process, we can develop more empathy and compassion for others.
And the last one we'll talk about is blessed are the meek.
Ah, yes. This one is all about humility, too. It's about letting go of the need to be right all the time or to be in control.
So it's about surrendering to something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. And when we do that, we create space for real growth and change to happen.
I love that. Creating space for growth. So we've talked about the invitation to transformation and the burdens we carry and the Beatitudes. What comes next in this journey?
Well, Dr. Simpson talks a lot about the importance of awareness.
Awareness.
Yeah. Being aware of our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors. Because when we're aware of those things, we can start to understand why we do the things we do and why we feel the way we feel.
It's like becoming an observer of our own lives.
Exactly. And when we do that, it can be incredibly empowering.
Because we're not just reacting to things anymore. We can start to make conscious choices.
Right. And Dr. Simpson specifically recommends the practice of mindfulness for cultivating this kind of awareness.
Mindfulness. That's a buzzword we hear a lot these days.
Yeah.
What does it actually mean in this context?
Well, in this context, it means paying attention to the present moment without judgment, noticing our thoughts and feelings as they come and go without getting caught up in them.
So it's about being present in the here and now.
Yes. And Dr. Simpson says that this simple practice can have a profound impact on our lives.
So how can we actually incorporate mindfulness into our daily routines?
There are a few different ways. One is journaling. Just taking a few minutes each day to write down our thoughts and feelings.
It's like a way to process our experiences and make sense of them.
Exactly. And another way is meditation. Even just 5 or 10 minutes of quiet meditation can make a big difference.
And I guess there are all sorts of apps and guided meditations available now.
There are. And the last way is to get feedback from others. Talk to trusted friends or family members and ask them for their honest opinions about how you're doing.
Because sometimes it's hard to see ourselves clearly.
It really is. But when we combine those different approaches, journaling, meditation, and feedback from others, we can start to develop a much deeper understanding of ourselves.
And that understanding can be really transformative.
It can. And it leads us to the next stage of the journey. Self-discover.
Self-discover.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
about uncovering our true selves, the people we were created to be.
Sounds like a big task.
It can be, but it's also an incredibly rewarding one. And Dr. Simpson says it's a lifelong process. It's not something we achieve overnight.
So it's about being patient with ourselves and trusting the journey.
Exactly. And it's about exploring our passions, our values, and our beliefs.
Because those are the things that make us unique.
They are. So if you're listening right now, ask yourself, what are you passionate about? What do you value most in life? What do you believe in?
These are big questions, but they can help us to understand who we are at our core.
That's right. And as we go on this journey of self-discovery, it's important to remember that it's not always going to be easy. There will be ups and downs, twists and turns.
Because life is messy. And unpredictable.
It is. But the key is to embrace the journey, all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Because it's all part of the process.
It is. And when we can surrender to that process, we open ourselves up to incredible growth and transformation.
Now, I know Dr. Simpson also talks about the importance of rest, which might seem counterintuitive in our always-on culture.
You're right. But he makes a really compelling case for why rest is so essential.
So why is it so important?
Well, for one thing, our bodies need rest to function properly. We need time to recharge and repair.
We're not machines. We can't just go without taking a break.
Exactly. And rest isn't just about our physical health either. It's also crucial for our mental and emotional well-being.
Because when we're constantly stressed and overworked, we can't think clearly or make good decisions.
Right. And we're also more likely to make mistakes and get irritable.
Which isn't good for anyone.
And Dr. Simpson points out that even God rested after creating the world.
That's a powerful image. If God needed to rest, then surely we do too.
Exactly. So make time for rest in your life. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity.
What are some practical ways we can incorporate rest into our busy lives?
Well, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could be as simple as taking a few minutes each day to just sit and breathe deeply.
Or taking a nap.
Or going for a walk in nature.
Or reading a good book.
Or spending time with loved ones. The important thing is to find what works for you and to make it a regular part of your routine.
So we've talked about awareness, self-discovery, rest. What else is there?
Well, Dr. Simpson talks a lot about faith and how our faith can grow and evolve over time.
He calls it going from faith to faith.
He does. And it's this idea that our faith is not a static thing. It's a journey.
It's like a muscle that gets stronger the more we use it.
That's a great analogy. And Dr. Simpson says that our faith is often tested, especially during difficult times.
Because when things are tough, it's easy to question our belief.
It is, but those times of testing can actually be opportunities for growth because they force us to dig deeper and to rely on God more.
So we come out stronger on the other side.
Exactly. And Dr. Simpson outlines different stages of faith development. He says there's an initial faith, which is often very hopeful and optimistic.
Like when we're first starting out on our spiritual journey.
Right. And then there's a stage of testing where our faith is challenged and we might start to doubt.
And that can be a really difficult time.
It can. But if we persevere through it, we can emerge with a more mature and resilient faith. A faith that's been tried and tested.
A faith that can withstand the storms of life.
Exactly. And that leads us to another important topic, obstacles.
Obstacles.
Yeah. The challenges we face in life, they're inevitable.
We all face obstacles.
We do. But the good news is that Dr. Simpson offers some strategies for overcoming them.
What are those strategies?
Well, the first one is to identify the obstacle.
To name it.
Yes. Because when we can name something, it loses some of its power over us.
It's like taking away its mystery.
Exactly. And then the next step is to seek support.
Support.
Yeah. Talk to someone you trust. A friend, a family member, a therapist, a mentor. Don't try to go it alone.
Because we all need help sometimes.
We do. And the last strategy is to stay focused on your goals. Remember why you're doing this. Don't let the obstacles discourage you.
Because it's easy to get sidetracked.
It is. But if we can keep our eyes on the prize, we're more likely to persevere.
So identify the obstacle, seek support, stay focused.
Those are the keys to overcoming challenges. And you know, this whole idea of overcoming obstacles is really connected to having a growth mindset.
A growth mindset.
Yeah. It's this belief that our abilities are not fixed. We can learn and grow and improve.
So it's the opposite of a fixed mindset.
Right. With a fixed mindset, people believe that their intelligence and talents are set in stone.
And that can be really limiting.
It can. But with a growth mindset, we believe that we can always learn and grow no matter what our age or background.
So it's about embracing challenges as opportunities for growth.
Exactly. And it's about seeing setbacks as temporary.
Because setbacks are inevitable. We all experience them.
We do, but the difference is how we respond to them. With a growth mindset, we see setbacks as learning experiences. We pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and try again.
And that's how we become more resilient.
Exactly. So how can we cultivate a growth mindset?
I'm glad you asked.
One way is to focus on learning. Be curious, ask questions, and don't be afraid to try new things.
Because making mistakes is part of the learning process.
It is. And another way is to surround yourself with people who have a growth mindset.
People who will support and encourage us.
Right. And the last way is to celebrate your progress, no matter how small.
Because every step forward is worth celebrating.
It is. And it's interesting because even stress and anxiety can play a role in growth.
Really?
Yeah. Dr. Simpson says that stress and anxiety are often signs that we're pushing ourselves beyond our comfort zone.
So they can actually be positive things.
They can, because they can motivate us to change and to grow.
But of course, too much stress and anxiety can be debilitating.
Absolutely. So the key is to find a healthy balance. And Dr. Simpson offers some strategies for managing stress and anxiety effectively.
Like what?
Well, one is mindfulness, which we talked about earlier.
Right.
And another is exercise.
Exercise is always good for us.
It is. It releases endorphins, which have mood-boosting effects.
And it helps us to sleep better.
Right. And another strategy is to connect with others. Talk to friends and family or join a support group.
Because we don't have to go through tough times alone.
We don't. And the last strategy is to practice self-care. Do things that make you feel good.
Like taking a hot bath or reading a book or listening to music.
Exactly. The important thing is to find what works for you and to make it a priority.
Now, another big theme in Dr. Simpson's book is self-reflection.
He talks about how important it is to take time to look inward and to examine our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors.
It's like holding up a mirror to ourselves.
It is. And it can be a really powerful tool for growth.
Because it allows us to see ourselves more clearly.
Right. And to identify areas where we might need to make some changes.
So how can we make self-reflection a regular part of our lives?
Well, Dr. Simpson recommends setting aside some time each day or each week to just sit and reflect.
And what should we be reflecting on?
Anything and everything. Our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, our relationships.
What are we grateful for? What are we struggling with?
Exactly. And he also recommends asking ourselves some specific questions.
Like what?
Like, what did I learn today? How did I show up for myself and others? What am I proud of? What could I have done differently?
These are really great questions to ask ourselves.
They are. And the key is to be honest with ourselves. Don't be afraid to face the tough stuff.
Because that's where the real growth happens.
It is. And speaking of growth, we've all made mistakes in life.
We're human. It's inevitable.
It is. But what matters is how we respond to those mistakes.
Do we let them define us? Or do we learn from them and move on?
That's the key. Dr. Simpson says that mistakes are valuable learning opportunities.
So we shouldn't beat ourselves up over them.
We shouldn't. Instead, we should try to see them as a chance to grow and improve.
So how can we do that? How can we learn from our mistakes and move on?
Well, the first step is to acknowledge the mistake. Don't try to sweep it under the rug or pretend it didn't happen.
Own it.
Exactly. And then try to figure out what went wrong. What could you have done differently?
What can you learn from this experience?
Right. And once you've done that, forgive yourself.
Forgiveness is so important.
It is. Because holding on to guilt and shame will only hold you back.
And forgiveness isn't just about forgiving ourselves. It's also about forgiving others.
That's right. Because when we hold on to resentment and bitterness, it only hurts us in the end.
It poisons our hearts.
It does. So if there's someone you need to forgive, take some time to do that. It's a gift you give to yourself as much as to the other person.
It's about releasing yourself from the past.
Exactly. And then once you've acknowledged your mistake, learned from it, and forgiving yourself, it's time to move on.
Don't dwell on it.
Don't.
Yeah.
Focus on the present moment and on what you can do now to create a better future.
And all of this leads us to the final point we want to talk about today. Taking action.
It's about actually making those changes in our lives, putting all this knowledge and self-awareness into practice.
Because it's not enough to just talk about change. We have to actually do something.
Exactly. Dr. Simpson emphasizes that transformation requires action. It's about making conscious choices and taking deliberate steps towards the life we want to create.
So where do we start? What are some practical steps we can take?
Well, first, he suggests getting really clear on your goals. What do you want to achieve? What does your ideal life look like?
Write it down. Make a vision board. Whatever helps to make those goals feel real and attainable.
Exactly. And once you have a clear picture of where you want to go, break those big goals down into smaller, more manageable steps.
Because it's easier to take action when we're not overwhelmed.
That's right. And lastly, remember your why. Why are you making these changes? What's motivating you?
Because when things get tough, remembering our why can help us to stay on track.
It can. And it's so important to celebrate our progress along the way, no matter how small those victories may seem.
Because every step forward is a step in the right direction.
It is. And it's worth acknowledging and celebrating.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Dr. Simpson's book, I just want to remind everyone listening that your journey is unique.
There's no right or wrong way to do this.
It's about finding what works for you and taking it one step at a time.
And remember, you're not alone on this journey.
God is with you every step of the way.
He is. And so are we.
And I think one of the biggest takeaways from Dr. Simpson's book is that transformation is not just about the destination.
It's about the journey.
It's about the lessons we learn and the growth we experience along the way.
Exactly. So embrace the journey.
With all its ups and downs.
With all its challenges and triumphs.
Because it's all part of becoming who you're meant to be.
And who you're meant to be is amazing.
Now, one last thought for you to consider as you go about your day. Think about those burdens we talked about. What's one small step you can take right now to lighten that load?
And how might the Beatitudes, those beautiful blessings from Jesus, guide you on that step?
We'll leave you with that question to ponder.
Until next time.
Keep on growing.